I know everyone. So I invited Kimberly today, and Kimberly, I know you did an intro on your project, and you had some questions you wanted to share.
Yeah, we're just at a point right now where I'm trying to figure out a lot of our financial work. The grants that we've had previously were really to pay the artists. And the grant that we have now is really to pay the artist plus build the production. And the production costs, just kind of figuring out, I guess the financials for it really. It's just kind of the basic financials of figuring out how to divvy up the money properly to be as prepared for our taxes next year as possible. I think is one of our biggest concerns, because we've never done this before. So it'll be our first tax return as a company. I have no idea what to expect or what to anticipate or what to make sure I get done, honestly.
Anyone have a suggestion that's dealing, I'm not a tax expert, not accounting or anything. What we've been doing with Sojourner Truth is, what we've been doing is working with our accountant, and we can refer you to Ira Bulletproof, so that we can set up, we had to go through this whole thing, because even though the museum has a 20+ history of working in the building, it doesn't have that structure, where you're going to be audited. And then, we worked with I'm just doing an example. We worked with another accounting firm that just paid the bills. And when myself and Daphne Burgess consultants came on, we were faced with, oh, wait a minute. We got to now train our accountant to understand budgetary line items, project line items, and how to build the organizational budget. And that other, back office wasn't doing that. They just were used to just paying the bill. And they didn't really want to shift to help us set up the organization the way it's supposed to be set up financially, right? So we went through a whole year of, because we can't just give a budget to the California Arts Council and say, and that's what has happened in the past 3 years, Kimberly, you went on and created a budget, but it's like, that's not what we're supposed to do when we're working with a state agency. This is, we take it from the 990 line, and all that happened. And then Sojourner Truth has been a fiscal agent for you all, so that created another, level. And Laura can address the fiscal agent question, because of the Phantom Gallery is a fiscal agent under Near Northwest Arts Council, right? So we had to sit and then figure all those things out, and then how to pay people, and then set up a, under QuickBooks, we had to start pulling all that together. And then I had to just sit down on one-on-ones to say, this is what we need as consultants when we're building these budgets. Because right now we're building a program, we're building programmatic money, and all those line items are different, and you can't overlap other grant money with this project, and back and forth, back and forth. So, and so his job was not just easy. It was like, let's do this. This is what each grant application, this is what we said in each grant application, this is what is going to happen. And this project money is restricted funding for this. But at the same time, we're building workforce development. So all that money has to go into this pot to pay, the youth that come through, pay staff that come through, and then those line items, how it goes. So I'm going like how we're building this, right? And so once you build those line items, and then when you're dealing with like less than $150,000 budget, or you're dealing with less than $100,000 budget, it gets a little simpler. But when you start getting that $500,000 and up, that's when, if we don't really organize our budgets and organize the way we're building our organization, financial health of the organization, then that's when we're faced with all these audits and stuff. But for what you're doing, you're looking at building the executive director funding, and then under that, I'm trying to remember your proposal in the line items, because I did
Mhm.
work with your proposal. I
Okay.
look at it, right?
Correct.
And then you're looking at the people under you that you're paying money to. If it's over $600, then you give them a 1099 at the end of the
Mhm.
year, and they're responsible for paying the taxes on that money,
Okay.
not you. You're not, and not the organization. Is that right, Laura? And then some organizations just, like give you all the money, and then they take the admin out. And that's
Yeah.
what you wrote, Shona, in the admin. So they're responsible for that amount of money and the taxes on that money,
Okay.
right? And so all the rest of it is that you're trying to eliminate where you're paying the bulk of the taxes on that.
Right.
So if you have QuickBooks already set up, do you have a QuickBook account? Yeah.
Right.
So then
Yeah.
now that's when you haven't started paying people yet.
No.
Right. And so at the end of this fiscal year is when you would start, but the money came this year.
Yeah, it just came last week. But if
That's
it hasn't been
That's last year.
cashed,
Wait a minute. It doesn't matter. The date on the check. I keep telling Shona the date on the check is when we got it, because we want our budget to be reflected in a larger amount, especially with the
gotcha.
state,
Okay.
especially with the NEA.
Oh,
I need that budget to be larger. I don't need it to be smaller. And I don't want her to
okay.
be in fear of paying the taxes on something.
Yes,
We
yes,
need
yes, I
a
gotcha.
larger budget so we can ask for more money, right?
Okay.
So, yeah. So it didn't, you might not have cashed it in the bank, but the date on the check, right, is what you're looking
Is
at.
what it is.
That's what it is. That's what it's paid out. But you
Okay.
didn't make any payments to anybody during
No.
that month. So no one would receive a 1099 because you haven't paid anyone yet. So what you would do is, once you start paying people, and go set up your QuickBook account so that you can, and I don't know if you're going to pay them through a check. I don't know if you're going to pay them through automatic deposit. I don't know what you're planning
We
on
were
doing.
going to do, and that's one of the things we still haven't decided. We've got what we're trying to figure out the best way to do it, because we have two employees, but then we're also paying the participants for their daily attendance, basically. And so paying them, we were going to do like Visa gift cards. Just depending on how many people show up on each day, it just seems a little easier. We don't have to worry about cutting checks, and we can still have a clear, how should I say, record of who gets what.
So Laura, what is your?
I don't have any experience on issuing gift cards, but I've been on the experience of receiving them. So it's kind of nice, because it gives me, a lot of the money that we get that's city, state, or federal money doesn't allow you to pay for refreshments or feeding people, which is an important part of getting together. And so it's so I guess the gift cards are a way to recognize folks' contribution, and then we're free to use it and spend it. I bought my mom a pair of slippers, so I mean it's it's better than a grant.
Yeah.
Like the YWCA here during COVID gave me like three gift cards, and they were $100 each, right?
Okay.
And then that allowed them where they didn't have to submit checks, they didn't have to do an AHS deposit, and they just sent out the gift cards like that, and then I activated it, and then you could add money to those cards,
Okay.
And so the thinking behind it is that gifts aren't taxable, so you're not, but I'm not quite sure on all the logistics on that. And that's where having, a board member, you're kind of, shifting the tax liability onto the recipients. But it's and as far as I I know the organization that's issuing the gift cards is not counting that as 1099 expense, which doesn't report it to the government. So with a lot of us, you know, on Social Security or SSI or, you know, we don't want to push somebody too far into losing their benefits.
Right, absolutely.
And so the gift cards, I think, are, but I don't know this for a fact because I'm not a tax expert. But that's where it's good to have a board member or cultivate an advisory person to answer your questions as they come up and kind of give you good sound advice as far as, you know, how to set up your books, how to track things when liabilities come due, and how to keep track of all of that.
Who's your
That was-
accountant?
Me.
I don't have an,
Oh, sorry, I think you're
no, go ahead.
No, I asked about your accountant because like Sharifa Walker, she has a Infinite Finance company and she's on the board of directors for, you know, Sojourner Truth.
Okay.
And also Ira Williams is the accountant. So I would, you know, I mean, you have a background in finances if you're doing the accounting right now, but go to get advice from them. Do you know Sharifa?
No.
Yeah, I'll put her information in the, you know, in the chat so that you
Thank
can
you.
kind of circle back. She's on the board and acting as treasurer for the museum. And because you are a, you know, like they are a fiscal agent for you, that would be a good question, you know,
Okay.
to ask and then to circle back and get a consult from Ira.
Okay.
What to do. But my advice is get that QuickBooks. I do have it, QuickBooks, you know, for self-employed people, you know, and that way you track your expenditures.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the year, you're going to have to do the report for the California Arts Council.
Right.
You know, like that. And they're going to want to see, you know, where everything lines up.
Right.
And then that happens, and then it'll make it easier when you're submitting your 990 as well. But I know you guys have probably other expenses other than just this one grant, but I'm only working with you on this one
Right.
grant.
Right. And this is the one that's the more challenging for us because it has so many different line items. We're paying employees, we're paying artists, we're also paying participants. Plus, in our budget, we are given allowance for food, so we're feeding everybody. So
I thought we took that line item for food out of there because the California Arts Council does not allow.
You're right. I'm sorry. It's a different. You're right. It's different funding that I got for that. You're right. But it's paying for the production costs, for the rentals, for all these other different things for the production and for the workshop series. So we have a lot of different, one of my questions though is, you know, we're talking about paying artists. I can't remember if it's cumulative, like $600. If you pay somebody more than $600, they have to claim it, right? Is that cumulative over the year? Like if we pay them $20 here, $40 there, another $80, and it comes up to $700, we're still sending that to them, right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And it's a shame that, like you said, your computer crashed. I just pulled up stuff right now so I can look through and I'll send you this folder, this whole folder, and I'll send it to you through Google Docs, one-to-one.
Okay.
That way, if computer crashes or something else happens, you'll have it over in Google Docs.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Because I remember I sent you this stuff, you know, and yesterday I wasn't online at all. So if you do the QuickBooks, then you can keep track of individual accounts, you know, that you're putting money into, even though you're talking about getting the gift card and adding money on those gift cards. Sometimes they take out so much money off those gift cards. So if people don't have, and then make sure you get there in advance, their W-9. Because everybody on this call that I gave money to, I mean, I still need your W-9, so I can send you a 1099 by the end of the month. So get it in advance before you even get started, have them turn that in. And if they have, accounts, in that way you can get their account number and transfer money into their account. Sometimes that'll be cheaper. They got Cash App and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
You know what I mean? And that way
Yeah.
you don't have to deal with all the rest of that. You know what I mean? And they deal with it. And I know with PayPal and Cash App, it's just such small increments of money.
Yeah.
It'll be better that way. And you can track what's being paid out, and they can track what's being paid out, because at the end of the year, PayPal and Cash App, they send you a 1099.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then you're responsible for reporting it, and then never get into the thing of giving people cash, because they don't want to.
Yeah.
be
No.
responsible for,
Yeah. And there's
you know
no
what I
way.
mean? Yeah, be responsible for anything other than you just handing them the money, because you're going to be accountable at the end of the day,
Okay.
like that. Because you have you have like 2 workshop facilitators, 2 consultants that you're paying, and a tech person for stage.
Yeah.
The administrative fee for Sojo, and then you got a lot in production expenses, and the way I wrote this, I not wrote it, but edited it for you. Sorry. That's when they said, hey, you got to take out this 500 or whatever for
The food. Yeah.
and put the extra money into your other consultants' account, so that they could, hey, pick up stuff, because we gave them extra
Oh,
money.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
We gave them extra money.
Yeah.
Can you pick up the pizza or whatever? Because we're giving you that allowance in your here. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of how I went around that,
Okay.
and just as an advice, because I was trying to figure out, even for Sojo, how to get around that. And there's no getting around it. We just had to go raise money, because we use food as a social construct, right? And for an organization that says you're doing wraparound services, which is when you have a client that's coming to your production or coming to your project, then as artists, we have that one-on-one with them, and where they may not be forthcoming about, I'm homeless, or I'm sleeping on the couch, or I have food last night, or I don't know where my next meal, or I missed the shelter meal, or whatever. They're more, we're able to pull that out of people, and then be able to say, there's no shame in it. Let me send you here. Let me help you here.
Right.
Within the network, we can do this, to help. So those are kind of like wraparound services, that are inclusive. So we bid our case to the And Land Foundation. It's some more to her word, the title of that foundation with the city. And they wound up getting money for catering. They go, do we do catering?
Nice.
And it's like, no, it's not about the catering. You got to go purchase the money, and then we have someone that's going to make the meal. And then that's how the museum is able to feed the people that are coming to the projects. Provide brown bag food. It's under our proposal with the California Arts Council. That was the other one for art, Jump Arts, where we're working with the prison population too, our people that are on probation. So that's what I'm talking about. We're working with the same kind of clientele that are coming, and ways to help them is what I wrote into the grant, especially when they started saying we can't provide nutrition. They're not going to pay for that. And then we, even with the funding from the National Endowment for the Arts or Institute for Human Library Service, we can't have food item. And then it's going to be a large announcement soon through Caltrans with the project that Sojourner Truth has for placemaking. We couldn't even have food in that. And no, and it's a lot of community days involved with that. And that's why we had to look at other places for nutrition or talk. And then for me to even talk about food as a social construct, they're like, what are you talking about? What are you talking? What is that? What does that mean when we have
It's like
travel
everybody
estate?
gets together and sit down and have a conversation like you do at
Right.
dinner.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
it's as a social construct, and this is
Yes.
the kind of outreach and people thing that we're doing. And Megan with the arts and cultural, you know, commission there, she knows what food as a social construct is when we say that, but we can't just use city money for it. But they are using city money under, and if you were applying for the youth workforce development,
Okay.
you know, and youth night out, there's a line item in those budgets for food, you know,
Okay.
to help with the youth and stuff and families that are coming,
Okay.
you know. But we've had it, your staff's budget with extra money so they could help with, you know, food
Okay.
as a social construct.
Got it. Okay. Now that really helped. I think that's where we're and I will definitely reach out to Sharifa and Ira and see if I can get some additional clarity about how to make sure we get our finances. And that's my biggest concern right now, is because we haven't had this type of funding, and I haven't done this in 20 years. So it's been a while. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. And, you know, and that's what we're here. I wrote pop-up research station into, you know, into the grants to provide professional development training. So that's why I invited you, come to this platform so that we can do it, you know, online. If you have questions on, again, assessments that are going to come up and evaluation tools, you know, Rhonda Hardy is one of our consultants that has a background field in that. She hasn't been able to introduce herself yet. Rhonda, her mic's off. So, you know, that will help along the way in helping you do that. So how's your outreach? What about your outreach? What's
I think it's been well, because we've really announced, you know, that we were providing financial assistance. So we just did our interviews for our consultants, and we had 7 people interview, which was really nice. We weren't sure how many people we're going to get, because it's, you know, it's hard to come out of that environment and be prepared to be a leader sometimes. And that's what we're asking them to be, is to be a leader for us. So, and we've had some people, we're building a focus group right now to help us fill the workshop series, basically. So we're asking people who are members of ARC, members of the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, to come and sit down with us and talk to us about kind of our best practices to fulfill this project, really, to really encourage members to be a part of it, because our workshops start in February. So we're doing our focus groups. We're doing 2 focus groups this month. And they're the ones that are going to help us connect to the members, to bring members into the actual workshop series. That's what we're doing. So we've had some good turnout. We just haven't started the project yet, because we've been waiting for this funding.
I'm going to pull up your website if you don't mind.
No,
So
of
we
course.
can share that. We like to share here.
Yes, please. And you were talking about Michelle Walker, and it was such a beautiful experience. I had an opportunity to be one of the artists there at the Auburn Gallery. And I would love to hear more if you're continuing that work, the altar work. I would love to hear more eventually about what you're doing, because that was one of the best experiences I've ever had.
Can you see, you guys, can you see the MacBeth project here on the screen, on screen share?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, great. I don't know where I think this just, you're just showing this and there's no sound on it?
No, it's just, there's no sound. It's just, yeah, you just scroll down and it has a lot of our upcoming information.
So Dracula.
We just did Dracula in October last year. It's hard to say last year.
I know, huh?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And you
And
also
this year we're
did,
doing Mother Juliet and her Romeo. And it's a take on this Shakespeare Romeo and Juliet, but it's Romeo and Juliet are performed by senior citizens, and there's children who are trying to separate them.
and this is coming up too on.
It is. It is. So we're part of the Intercultural Festival Reflections. We do kind of the African American portion of it. We're 4 organizations that partner together to build this. It's Teatro Espejo, Sacramento Filipino Day, the MacBeth Project, and Moss Series Arts. And so we're all different cultural organizations, ethnic organizations coming together to build this together. So this is our 2nd year doing it.
You work with Yaya on this. I remember her
Yeah.
doing some productions on this too as well.
Right. Yeah, we've done a lot of work together. And this was our stage reading, our first stage reading, first thing we did.
It has a really fun way of looking at Shakespeare in a different way, and I was really glad to see it. I love Macbeth. I've never seen a version of this like this before, so I was really happy to see it, and I hope that they keep doing this here at Celebration Arts.
Gerald Roberts, right?
He was one of my community partners.
We were able to see for the 2nd night in a row this vision that Kimberly had of bringing the truth of Macbeth out through their work in collaboration with an all-Black cast and an all-Black theater, and all beautiful all the way around. And their vision was really to highlight the individual's voice of where they come from, of where they are, blended and braided with the character's voice, and not necessarily just spouting out words by Shakespeare, but offering words by Shakespeare told to us in the vernacular of everyday people in the everydays that they are, whether they be doctors or arts administrators, whether they be actors full-time, whether they be educators, whether they be community builders. That voice shone through, as well as the voice of Shakespeare, but done in a way that was respectful of the community, for the community, and by the community.
I'm a Macbeth fan anyway. I watched the BBC versions of the Macbeth the Shakespeare play, so this one I really enjoyed. It captured the essence of the play, but it actually made it more accessible. Just some of the language, it made it more accessible.
Great job. I mean, you know, when you go to panel, they only really look at your stuff for like 2 minutes, maybe 3 at the most.
It's very true.
You know, so I'm like, okay,
Gotta push it all up in there.
push it all in. So. What are you doing Monte Carlo night? What's going on with that?
So this is a night that we're building. One of our new supporters has offered his palatial surroundings for us to have a Monte Carlo night, to be a sponsor night, to build sponsorships and fundraising. It's a fundraising event basically. And it's going to be there. He's putting a lot of money in it for us to benefit us. So we're very excited.
Okay.
I knew Alpha was on the phone, so I muted her. Now she's back.
No problem. Oh, you muted Alpha.
I did, but you're
There you go.
unmuted, Alpha.
All right. So that was Shona. She was calling from physical therapy. Say hi, everybody, to 2023. So yeah. So she can't join us because she's still doing this physical therapy from her injury. So like that, but she just said hi, everybody. So yeah. Well, thank you for your presentation, and I'm hoping that you join us and any other questions that you have, you know, that we can, you know, help steer you with this year. And because we're doing a like project, I think, you know, that maybe William, you know, William McDaniels, when he comes on, that maybe we could get together because he's having the same kinds of problems with outreach,
Okay.
And I like your approach, to kind of, like you saying, having focus groups, and maybe he's working with a team of correctional officers. And I said, community corrections, committee, all these,
Okay.
and
Right.
try to pull that together to figure out, because everybody's just out the box with this, how we sit and I was telling Shona that as consultants and doing development work, we sit here in our heads and we're spinning these projects, to make them happen. But then when you get funded for them, now you got to implement them, right? You know what I mean? So as consultants, I still follow the projects. I don't just give them to you. I follow them, right? And help with the implementation, and because we've designed them and then shaping them and helping with the, evaluation at the end, like that. So anytime, you want to jump on the research station, because as part of IMLS, I wrote us in to give professional development and advice,
Okay.
so you guys are welcome,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And so I guess we'll go back to Lemmy over here in Chicago. I know she's working in the studio. Are you still on with us, Lemmy? Or are you really deep into the sketching of the work? I can't hear you on a.
I was listening
Okay, great.
while I was doing the work. Okay, I'm coming back. Talk to me, or how
Ask
are
you a
you?
question. Let's see. I want to talk about, your experiences. I first met you through Bombay Sapphire.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Did
the
I
work.
meet you through Bombay?
You met me through Gallery Gashard, yes.
Yeah,
And they were
but
the national curators for.
and it was Bombay. That's how I met there.
Yeah.
So what was your question?
And your experience with coming from a national competition, and you won in New Orleans, right? You were the
Mhm.
winner. Yeah.
Well, I have two different heads here. There was the working out of New Orleans, as well as when you work out of a place that it's very culturally rich, but I had no idea I would win because they like their own people. And I'm actually from New York originally. So I did not know that I was going to win. And then once I won and I went to when you do Bombay Sapphire Artisan Series, when you win the regional, I don't know if they're still doing it, they send you to Scope, which is Art Basel, part of Art Basel in Miami, which to me was like the it thing to do at the time. And that was about 5 years ago. So at that point, I got to know Gallery Gashard, which is how I met Alpha. And it was the first time a gallery actually approached me and said, we would like to bring you on. Where before then, and I'm only talking in terms of like an artist, where artists are considered, in order for you to really feel that you're getting anything out of it, you got to be hungry. And that means you'll do anything, even put your daggone art out there, not get paid, but somebody else is getting paid for it. Because number one, you'll pay to do a show. You'll pay to get somebody to put your artwork out there. You'll pay to ship it to somewhere. And it's because you're that hungry, you just want it out. And after working with Gallery Gashard, because am I pronouncing their name right? Because I'm always
Yes.
saying Gashard. It's like you switch channels. And the channel is you start realizing your worth. And in a way that you won't pay. And you have to say, it's almost like, I'm gonna put it, we're all, I think all females here. It's like dating someone and realizing, are you about to have sex with them just because
Come
you
on with
want
it.
to keep them?
Set us free. Set us free.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like it's basically I'm older now in a way where all I want to say is, what do I get out of this?
That part,
Because
right?
psychologically, we're thinking that because we're giving, we're already getting. That is a myth. So because I've been working with them and I basically cared about making not quality work anymore, but not quality, not quantity work, but quality work. Meaning I normally will not go, how much work can I get done this week? As opposed to, and I'm talking about in numbers, as opposed to how much work can I get done in space of which piece. Let me see if I can focus on her face. Let me see if I can focus all in one piece. You're taking the time to actually be good at what you're doing, as opposed to taking the time to make so much work so that you can get it out there and then you turn around and it's like you're just giving, and nobody is there to actually come around and hold your hand and say, thank you, let's see what we can do now with you. Basically, you're giving and people are taking. So I pretty much refocused myself, and my husband helped me with this one. He said, you can do this kind of work, but bigger and better, because you're putting so much effort, so much love into it, and you will get the rewards for it. Whereas if you do, but if you tax yourself so much because you think that that's what you're gonna get, no, it doesn't work that way. So I guess at this point, it's like, it's not so much going on a national level, it's going on a personal level, and then packaging your talents in a way that when you do go out, whether it's local or national, you actually have a product that you can actually sit there and say, I did this and I'm proud of it and I can share it with the world. And even if it's just one piece, but it's one quality piece, it's one piece that your soul is so in. And people aren't stupid. They can tell if your soul is there. There's a difference between doing something that looks cute and doing your soul. And even each artist has their own way of doing things. Each artist, each performer, when I see you perform, or if I see your artwork, and if I could tell there's something so deep about you, you did a good job. You did a damn good job. But if I see something they like, well, I did this. I was doing a live painting. Alpha, remember this? I was doing
I'm going to show some of
a
your work
metal
in a minute.
point. Hold
Yes.
on. I was doing a metal point. I was touching up a metal point piece. There was a guy outside painting, huge ass piece. I think it was like 40 by 60. He was so proud. He did 2 hours worth of work on that 40 by 60 piece. And at the same time, and he was like, well, how long did it take you to do that? I said, it took me about a month. And he goes, whew, like, whew, well, I just did that in 3 hours. Oh, I sat there and was like, and the apples and oranges. You know
Like,
what
who
I
was
mean?
the artist that,
so
who was that
glad.
artist?
It was one of those guys
Okay, all right.
that,
I'm
and
so
he became
glad.
big. You remember he became flavor of the month,
Right.
But in my mind, I'm sitting there going, you do you, I'm doing me. Whatever works for me is going to work for me. And if that worked for you, especially at the fact that you're going to have people going oohs and ahs, you did, you weren't just being an artist, you were performing out there, and I just wanted to make sure that, that little part right there is going to bother me. I have to fix it. You know what I mean? And it's not like I'm being nitpicky about it. It's just that I know that somewhere along the line, when I'm dead and gone, I made sure I took care of that little piece so that when you buy it or whatever, you will always know, well, you know, she did this. You know, it's just, I don't know if you can call it your legacy so much as you can call it, we bring it and we can stand by it because we brought excellence to the table. That's all I was pretty much caring about. You know,
Right, and you
we
do this
bring the
fine,
excellence.
you do this
Uh-huh.
integral work. I mean, where you're just really etching.
No, etching's different.
Okay,
This is
but you know
actually
how you're taking that.
applying.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you see here is 12-inch gauge. It's pure silver. And I'm actually applying it to the wood here. And it's covered in black acrylic. And the acrylic is like, I've gone through so many variations of black. I finally found the blackest of the black, the blackety black, the black. And it is 99% light absorption. So whenever I put the 93% reflective, you see how the light, there's different light on it. So there's like a light over here, there's a light over there. If you walk through, it actually glimmers along. The one thing I loved about it, the one thing that made me happy, and this is just a short story, besides the technique, I was doing a show in Alabama. I'm a North person, but I was living in the South. And there are certain things that I was not, I'm going to say smart about with the South, because we don't realize there are certain parts that are still maybe 20 years behind in thinking. Okay, so it could be 30 years behind in thinking. But I was doing a show there and I actually did I had a black on black piece, and I was actually saying how gorgeous this woman is. The darker she was, the more beautiful she was on the metal point, because the black is reference to the skin tone. When we were growing up, and we all went through this, darker skinned people would have a shine to their skin, but some people would make fun of the fact that the dark skin would be considered oily. And if it's oily, that means that it's dirty. And I turned that narrative around. I wanted to turn this narrative around to say the dark skin and the shine on it is showing that you are luminous, that you are gorgeous. And if I'm creating you in silver, that means that you are as precious as the metal, that the precious metal that I'm using is saying you don't have to be wearing it so much as you can actually be as precious. Okay, so when I was finished with my talk, ladies 40 years old, 50s, 60s, and 70s. I even had an 80-year-old woman come up to me and she's like, I never even thought of it that way. And I thought to myself, I got to keep doing this, because we don't have enough positive reinforcement, even on a daily basis, in the arts. And also the fact that because we have worked so hard, women in general, and it's not like I'm sounding like a feminist-ish per se, but women in general really do work 10 times harder than the male counterparts. And we are very successful, but we don't get the accolades to do it. But I'm okay with that, because at the end of the day, I know that maybe the next generation might have that power, as well as the generation before us might feel that they've been vindicated, if that makes any sense. So it's, I don't know, would you call it artivism? Is that an activism kind of thing? You know? So in that way, I always feel that whatever happens, we all shine. Nobody shines to outshine another person. We all have our own light. We all are our own sun. If somebody wants to be your satellite, that's their problem, not yours. And when you see artwork that speaks to you, hopefully you can feel your soul. And if you feel your soul, hopefully you feel that the artist actually put their soul into it, and soul meets soul. Okay, you had me talk, so I talked. This was at the Hyde Park Arts Center. That piece that, even though it's there, you can't see. Is it scrolling? Oh, there you go. So the blues that you see there, this one is called Center is Golden, and it's actually bringing that beauty of centrism. Now you see that gold, that's actually metal point against that, and it's a different, it's only people that I mean, the only place that I ever created for was Gallery Grichard, because the owner has this thing about blue. And when I would, one of the owners of the gallery loved my blue pieces, I didn't want to stop doing metal point. So I turned the metal point into a different kind of design and still created the person in acrylic. So what you're seeing is actually a fusion of metal point and painting as in one piece. And I think the title pretty much says it all. Centered is golden. It's like just being centered is. Now this one here, that's called the Soul Embrace. He's actually a real person, a dancer in Chicago, and he let me take one of his photos. And again, I turned that into something that it's about self-comfort and the beauty of like knowing that you can, you can feel good when you just, hold yourself together kind of thing. This piece here is, I saw these two girls actually are one of my friends from New York's daughter and her best friend. But the thing is, they were walking down a regular street, like in suburbia. And I actually took them and put them in Harlem on 7th Avenue in my old neighborhood, walking down 7th Avenue. And it's happiness and first friendships. And we all know that first friend you had that was like the best person that, when you think of her, even back then, it was like warm your heart kind of thing. So that is something I'm also trying to introduce, the fact that Black children are innocent, that they, we've either sexualized or we've criminalized the boys and the girls who are from the age of 12 to 15 or 16. From the kids that I see in this school, I'm like, when I was growing up, I was a big girl, but I was one of few. Now I'm looking, everybody's big. I mean, they don't look like they're 15 and 16-year-old. You got to look at their faces to actually see the innocence kind of still there. So that being said, I wanted to actually show just something normal, like friendship does happen. And two young girls can walk down the street and enjoy their friendship. There's nothing sexual about it. There's nothing criminal about it. It's just kids allowed to be children. And that's why that one exists. And this one is actually in a show at the Museum of Science and Industry this month. Oh, that's a self-portrait. And it's called, well, it says the best daydream ever. But it's remember those days, I hope everybody had a day like this where they could be staring out into the sky and just feel the pure joy. And so that was like the best dream, but it goes so deep down all the way to your toes, that great feeling. So I'm hoping that whoever sees that actually remembers that feeling, or they get that feeling again and know that there's a lot of freedom in that joy, of just, all you did was just look out in the sky and you thought the world was so copacetic, This one is my brother who's 2 years older than me. My brother who he just passed, not the one 2 years older than me, but the one who took the picture. He's about 17 years older than me. And he took a picture in conjunction with the fact that how our youth, and this was like 50 years ago, how our youth were, you can't be innocent, or how are we going to protect our youth? He's playing in the street. He's playing toy sports cars, and like what little boys used to play, you get the toy cars and stuff, and he was just playing it in the middle of the street. And this goes back to the narrative of children. He's only 3 or 4 years old, and all he wants to do is just play, figure things out. I even talked to him. I was like, he said, I remember what I was thinking when I was doing that. He said, I was trying to figure out the mechanisms of the car. I was trying to figure out how to make this car work. He was telling me, I was like, you were thinking that at like 3, 4 years old? He's like, yeah, And so in that one actually got collected last year at a museum in Louisiana, the Hillard Art Museum, which is part of the University of Louisiana. So that's my presentation. Thanks, Alpha. They're actually doing something at the Hyde Park Art Center called Not Just Another Pretty Face. And that is artists being paired with patrons and seeing if they want, if a patron works with an artist. Actually, it wouldn't just be a commission, but you're collaborating with the collector to create something. And so the Hyde Park Art Center created a program that is in tune with that. Wait, can't hear you, Alpha.
There was a siren going by, we're on 47th
Oh,
Street.
yeah.
Sirens come by all the time. Well, I really love the way you carved your niche out in Chicago, because you haven't even lived here that long. And then there was the pandemic, but you came, and you and your husband moved from New Orleans, to Chicago, and you've maybe here 5 years or 4 years.
Not even. You've known me for 5 years.
Right.
But we've been here, this will be year 3. And well, you know what it is? This is telling you the difference between A and B, New Orleans and here. It took me 8 years to even get some smidgen of kind of clout, because I wasn't born there. I didn't go to school there. And I would have to be under someone's tutelage in order for me to even get in the door. And I wouldn't do that because, and I don't know how it is here, but in New York, you work hard, whatever, but in a small town, because it is kind of considered a small town, it's like once somebody puts their claws into you, it's almost like they own you and nobody else wants to work with you. It sounds
That's
weird.
in New Orleans?
That's in New Orleans.
Yeah.
But I've never felt it anywhere else, but in New Orleans, it's tighter. So yeah, it's beyond cliquish. If they know that you're associated with that, because they're also, and you're gonna laugh at it, everybody's pretty much related one way or another. So when it comes to family ties, that family actually knows that family, and that family may be connected to this family. I'm serious, this is generational, And so as time goes on, when they get to know you just a little bit more, which took me pretty much 7 to 8 years, I was able to at least get a little bit of headway. I was able to get work published in the newspaper, and I was able to get a residency before I moved here. But once I got here, I was pretty much expecting to do the same thing I had to do in New Orleans. But for some reason, Chicago has been such a blessing that all I had to do was just work, not kiss ass, you know, and that means so much to me, to be able to breathe and be able to just do what I do. At the end of the day, if it works, it works. But I also realized that's all I was going to do was work hard. I wasn't going to kiss any ass, you know, but it worked in my favor per se. So, and then, you know, I got to meet Alpha, who's like, she is a breath of fresh air. The Shards, they've been like, you know, working really nicely with, you know, just getting my feet wet and helping me to sell work, you know. So that being said, I love being in Chicago just because I feel that connection of being able to grow. And that's the thing. I feel as though if you can be in a place to take a deep breath and grow, that's a good place to be.
Right. I'm
Even
so
if
glad you made your way here too.
it wasn't on my
Yeah.
radar. It
I
wasn't.
made your way here. So, and we're currently, I'm going to show some of your work, and then Natalie came on, and then I wanted to Lisa to show your sites as well. But I have to pull up the site where she's the featured artist, and the name of your exhibition here at Gallagher Shard.
It's called The Divinity in the Blue. And it's artwork. You saw some of the blue pieces, but it is basically going back to what I was talking about anyway, which is we all have divineness in us, and I was trying to bring it up in certain ways because there's certain things that are attached to women all the time, like hair makes you more beautiful, the longer the hair. And I actually turned around and I put no hair on there because I remember a time when I was completely bald. And there she goes. And I thought I was fierce, you know? And all I did was just put a pair of earrings on, some heels, and it didn't make me any less of a woman. You know, every step I took, it felt like I was popping every step. You know, that's how good I felt. And there goes another one. And this one, Trinity's rings of gold, it's like the rings around Trinity is actually, there's 3 rings, and it's like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. You know, so you could say the Mother, the Daughter, and the Spirit. There's really 3 big rings, and then there's other little rings. And it's just showing such a level of power that we do carry, we do have. And I just wanted to express that. And then, you know, with the fact that, you know, she's a darker woman, she has fuller lips, and it just gives you that feeling that she's just bringing the presence. That's how I'm going to say it. That one was a huge piece. This one is definitely, this is as big as the other piece. And it's almost, I guess because I was raised Catholic, you're pretty much going to see some halos in there. But the reason why I love doing these halos is to give you the sense that we're all divine. You know, I also love, and you're gonna laugh at this, but you know how whenever, if you're Christian and Catholic, Mary is always in blue. So
Right.
I'm creating my own version of Mary's along the way. So this is actually a Mary, you know, looking, and it says, I look to you, and she's actually looking to God. She's actually looking, in a way that I could be having a conversation with God, or I could be seeking God, but yet I look to you. And it's funny because when I was a kid, I was always, when I was a kid, we had to go to church to got graded in Catholic school. And so at some point you're like, wah, 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 wah. So what I would do is actually stare at the statues and the Stations of the Cross and always try and figure out how they did that, you know? So I was always you're like, now look at that fabric. You know?
The way you
How
pick
did
it
they
up.
get yeah, how did they get that to look so real? And then this one is crown within her crown. Now, this goes back to the South because, and being raised Catholic, I'm so ignorant about how people would actually see hair. So remember when we were growing up, natural hair wasn't the it thing. And then you cut it off and you find out that somebody is saying you cut your glory off and because it's a religious thing in certain churches. And so now we're back to we can be natural and beautiful in our own skin. We don't have to straighten it if we don't want to. So I love the idea that the Afro has two things about it. One thing is that's her crown. It's her glory. And then I just made intricate details in there to say that is the crown within the crown. So my design.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm gonna go through these. Oh wow,
Now,
this is in the
yeah, this one, I wanted to incorporate dreadlocks becoming the, how do you say, and again, the crown, but also, you know how Victorians, they would have the high hair. So this one, I actually said, we're gonna do this with the dreadlocks and have it piled really high and make it look fabulous. And that's what I wanted to do. And therefore it became her own crown as well.
wow. She's featured in the gallery right now. I think she's in the front window.
Yeah,
And
she
here's-
is.
Yeah.
And this one is like, it's almost like when you do that to your neck and you stretch it out and you're like this, it's almost like you feel something coming onto you. You're feeling the sun coming onto you. You're feeling that richness of life and it's showing how divine you feel inside. Again, divinity, confidence is not conceit. It is about that pure spirit and power that you feel inside of you. Everybody has it, and we don't have it one and the other one doesn't. We all have it. Some people just utilize theirs differently. This one, you can't really tell, but at the bottom, her skirt has all these like little ringy dingies on there, but it's like she's like standing there doing her little groove thing, and that little hip. All you need is just
I was
hit
trying to
that
find
little-
it real quick right here.
Yeah, I don't know if you
Right
can.
here.
Yeah, I can see a little bit of it, but when you're in front of it, you see the actual chain link gold
Right here.
circles on there. Yeah, you see it.
Yeah, right there.
When you're in front of it, you actually see it shimmer on and it's in brass, but you shimmer with the light. It's almost the same kind of thing that her hair is. You see those circles?
Right
Those
here.
same circles are in her skirt. And you also see that she has a halo around her afro. This one is, if you scroll up a little so you can see there, no, down, I mean, sorry.
Okay, all right.
Okay, you see what's right here is like that spirit inside of her.
Mhm.
And so that's just the little, but when you scroll up, you'll be able to see that it's almost like right above her head.
Okay, let me go up.
Okay. Right above her head is actually a spirit blessing. So you know how they teach you this in school, in Catholic school, like the Holy Spirit, just like guide, it usually is in the form of a dove or whatever, but these are
Mhm.
like little lights and it's like here, but it's also showing you how deep it is and it's interchanging. So that is just her level of divinity there. You see those three little things? Yeah.
That's what I
Got
right
it.
there. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like going through her core. And again, what you're seeing is brass as well. This one was really fun. It took me the longest time to figure out what I was going to put on that earring because there's so many, Akindra, am I saying it right? Adinkra, Adinkra. There's so many Adinkras that I wanted to use, but I went back to the one I see the most. But there was one about the power within the power, but this one is actually based on God's supremacy. So I thought that was pretty cool to actually use that, but yet it's also showing, you see how beautiful her skin kind of radiates with the light. And so that's the same way I try and create with the silver point. This is painting and with a little bit of metal point. And the metal points in gold. With these pieces is always gold, but anything else is actually the painting, and there are layers upon layers upon layers of the skin to bring her skin out more like that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Well, thank you for asking me to be here.
You know, and I'm looking forward to, you know, coming by on the 13th, right?
Yeah, it's the 13th where I'm unveiling this.
Right, great. And
Which
then
I'm
that piece behind you is 4x4 panels that are so it's a 8x12.
It's 8 feet by 12 feet, and there's 6 of them, and they have tenements. Like if you ever been to Chicago or New York, I don't know, does Chicago have tenement buildings?
Yeah.
They have the vintage, they call it vintage. I don't know if they call it tenement, but in New York, in Harlem, this is, you know, pretty much the places where you grew up. And it's just showing you a moment in a day in Harlem where the neighborhood is actually just a normal neighborhood of kids and guys hanging out at the stoop. I have a barber shop over there where a kid is getting his hair cut the first time. I have a little girl in the window playing the violin. I got the mother in the kitchen pressing the woman's hair. My mommy here, which I'm still trying to figure out which face I'm gonna put on her. But it's just showing the connection of community, the men and the women and the children and the older, you know, all together in the community working normally. There's no pimps in here. There's no hoes. You know, it's just what I remember from my childhood. And I incorporated my brothers and sisters and my mom and a couple of friends' children in there, and my nieces. I'm putting my nieces in there. So everybody has like a starring role per se.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing with us with Pop-Up Research Station, because you're like the reason why we do this cultural work, why we're here with Artists Design the Future to build community places for artists, you know, to live and work and, you know, be a vital part of community. You know, so it's this year we're going to be introducing more artists from their studio practice, you know, to talk to us and share with us. I have a Pop-Up Research Station has a creative conversation on Blog Talk Radio where we have all these interviews of artists that are in their practice and cultural bearers that are doing the work in the field. But Natalie is joining us from Stockton, California, and we didn't get a chance to say hi, Natalie. And, you know, thanks for joining us. This is our 2023. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Alpha and Eliza and the rest of you all. Just finished sandbagging our front door in the garage, so I'm not getting on cam today at all. I looked through. So yeah, yeah, it's gonna
Kimberly's
flood.
out there too, dealing with the floods, guys.
Yeah, it's in our area it's not that bad, but literally there was water up to the underpasses on the other side of town, and so not looking forward to any of that. But yeah, just always here learning and connecting and doing all the things. So
Okay, thank you for joining us. Like, you know, I know you're going through a flood. We're getting ready for another, I don't know if it's a blizzard or if it's dense fog out here coming off the lake, and it's a drizzle day, but we have another storm coming through from the west coming out here. But you know, how's it going over there in Washington?
Oh, today we have lovely weather here today. I mean, it's a little warm. It's very strange, and I think you guys is coming this way. But today I walked outside, and as I was feeding the ravens on the deck, I had no jacket on. It was great, like maybe 55 degrees. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's called global warming.
It is.
It's called our planet crying for help, as and we're looking at who would have fathomed, this is like 2023, right? So we have a few more minutes, and if you want to share some more about your project, and if you want to pull up your screen.
It's under construction. Our actual project is under construction right now. If we can share my artwork, of course, but I would like to share a little bit more about some of my professional support that I can add to the group.
Thank you.
I am a project manager, or was until last year, because this year I am focusing. I am not going to do grants management and administration for the Department of Education this year, even though I am still getting emails. But I've told those people that I'm not doing that this year.
Oh, you left those clients behind?
I'm one person, and honestly, right now my focus has to be to get the seed money that I need to do this feasibility study. And I've been serving as a reviewer also. Not only do I manage grant reviews for the Department of Education at a national level, I also serve as a reviewer for DC Commission on the Arts for their building and facilities grant, because why? I plan on applying for them. So I have a very strategic process, and it's one of the reasons why I have the success that I have when I go after grants, is because I often volunteer to serve as a reviewer, especially for organizations that I plan on submitting with when I can do that. Because of this because I've really gotten, you have to work these deals till you get to a certain space. And so I'm at a place right now where we really got to garner about $120,000 so we can pay the consultant firm, the developer, to help us get the strategic plan or the feasibility study completed. And it won't take very long, because the consultant that I identified did it for DC Commission on the Arts already. So, but we know we got to pay to play, and everybody got to get theirs. So we're ready to do that, and I'm really excited to hear about the pop-ups, and looking forward to sharing some of my work, hopefully around the country this year. I plan to come back to Colorado, and I've got a show here with the Links in March, which would be my big kickoff, where I do some commission work where I develop artwork for fundraisers for nonprofits. And so the Links Arlington chapter is one of them. And I don't know if you want to take over my screen. I did pull up my, I just have it up as latest work, and you just kind of scroll through.
So
but the first,
let's see, Liza, can you make her?
You should be able to share, but
I'm able to do it. Okay, let's see. Share screen, boom. Okay, my computer's gonna ask me to do something. Hold on, it's saying something about privacy. I gotta click some changes.
Or if you want to put the link in the chat, and I can
okay,
go from there.
I need to fix that though. I'm glad that happened. You think you have all this security, and then somebody still somehow gets into your work. But one of the things I was gonna share that I really appreciated what Lammie said is that being in this art industry has been very interesting. So as you've heard, the last 30 years of my life, I've primarily been a federal government contractor. And art has been the way that I typically relax in and enjoy my life. But I had quite a few people to come to my studio. Yeah, the portfolio. And that was kind of how I ended up really putting my work out in the public market space. So the first piece, I wonder why it looks a little fuzzy here. The first piece is called the Charleston. That's the piece that I developed for the Lynx organization. And this is their evening in Monte Carlo event. It's their evening in Monte Carlo event. And they will be, I guess I'm signing certificates of authenticity right now. As we speak, trying to get ready so that I'm not like crunched in March with, oh my God, I got all this stuff to do. So the prints were done. I mean, this event got canceled because of COVID. And so we're just getting this back on, but that's going to be a 1,500 person event. And this is the artwork that's featured there. So I'm excited about that. The next piece is an oil piece. It's called Androgynous One. And it's just kind of my funky kind of style of doing what I do. I don't always have necessarily a subject that I'm thinking about, but we are in a society at this time where people are androgynous and you just can't tell kind of where people are. And I think that that's kind of cool sometimes. So the next picture is called Pacific Sunset. And I have a lot of work, and I don't have it up here, but I have a lot of skyscapes and a lot of landscape paintings that I've done over the years. And what I find really interesting is I will paint a place before I go there, which is kind of cool. I don't know, the inspiration comes from somewhere inside, and then all of a sudden I manifested myself in a situation. But I was in Italy. It was funny. I painted this picture and it was like the water was crashing against the side of the buildings, and I was going, oh, that's weird. And then like a few years later, I find myself in Italy. The very next one here, she is part of a series called The Queens. You just slide, it just slides over. Yeah. And I have a series, I think, of 8 of those, and she's in pastel. That's the one to the far left. And then you see some of the collage work here. The collage work has been really, really interesting. That is definitely my thing that I've been doing this last season. If you look to the far right, that's called, oh gosh, what is she called? Conscious, not that one, the one in the middle, because I know everybody's like, is that marijuana? Yes, that's Conscious Edibles. That's the logo for a company that I did a logo for a company, and that's it. It's called Conscious Edibles, and they have pancake mix. Which I did like that one. The owner, she's just real cool, and she's all into crystals and things like that, like me. The painting, the next one to the right is one that was featured, and I'm getting brain fog right now. Because I did 40 pieces, and I just want to speak to that. Sometimes, and I was networking with artists that really challenged me to create a lot of work, because they were serious, hungry, and out here doing, some of them 200 paintings a year, and I was like, yeah, well, that's not how I create. And my goal is to connect, and I want to create work that matters. So when you look here to the right, the name of this one is called My Instrument. To the left, where you see the Statue of Liberty there, when you start on the far right, the whole picture tells a story about our ancestors getting to America. And the fact that the pyramid is, the photograph is coming from the top, is all, you know, Africa, for some reason, the world wants to divorce Egypt from Africa. So it's a different point of view, understanding that Black Lives Matter during that time. And so you'll see right above that, you can't really see it here, but you'll see her zip suit, the female pharaoh. She was chiseled out, you know, they tried to erase her from history, but she still mattered and she still built and she still moved forward. And so you'll see there where you see African people in ceremony and weddings and things like that, speaking their truth through the lion's mouth. But as you will go through that, you'll see through colonialism, Christianity, and Islam, there's a snake that comes through there. And you'll see how it goes all the way into the United States with Martin Luther King in America, and how all of that was built on Roman imperialism. So which one would you like to read? Oh, there's a lot here. The woman with the cake on her head, which one? It doesn't matter. That one, that's called Sinking in Sin. And the church is sinking in sin. And I, for the life of me, can't understand how the Roman Catholic Church is the largest corporation on our planet. And no disrespect to any Roman Catholics present, because I know that you're not a perpetrator of the crimes that we see on television yearly. But I can't understand why no government has come against an organization who has their own country. This is a religion that has a country inside of Italy. They have their own police force, they have their own everything. You can't just roll up in there and get a pope and arrest people. You know what I'm saying? And we don't understand that. But they've been raping and having they've been sinking in sin for years, and nobody's really challenging that. So I'm kind of challenging that by saying, you know, having the dialogue that you're sinking in sin, and that there needs to be some constructive change surrounding that. And that's the next is a tower moment. I am creating my first deck of tarot cards. I'm a tarot card reader. And so that's a tower moment, understanding that tower moments come from heaven. They don't always, we're often not the creator of the tower moments. Tower moments come because the creator allowed the tower moment in your life. The question is, will you make change? As the animal on the right, salamanders can change their colors and change their ways and may change. Or will you continue to become like molten lava and become the island upon which people walk? Because that's what happens in our world when you do not make change in your life. You become that thing that people walk upon. So this is a tower moment that I did last year.
So we're gonna leave pop-up research station on that note, because I think that I just think that you can't say it any deeper, any better than the way you've laid it out for our direction for, you know, 2023, and how we need to take this environmental justice, social justice, all of these things in our practice and the work that we're doing. So thank you guys.
I was about to say goodbye to, because I had to run to another call.
Yeah, so thank you all for joining us.
Arlene,
Come
your
back.
work looked gorgeous, by the way, Artesia.
Oh, thank you so much, and yours as well. And thank you for your words of wisdom. I just wanted to encourage you that you're not alone. And I certainly believe that there is no competition, right? In the art world. There's never any competition. The people that connect with my work they'll connect with your work, and vice versa. Or maybe they'll connect with everybody's work, which is why I always share my platform. You know, we could talk a little bit about social media and how we use that and how we can maybe use that better in some future calls. I've kind of got to do a better job of it. And I've spent this year building a body of work that I need to update on my website. And then this year I plan to sell that work. And so that was my strategy. I just decided take some time and build a real body of work that you can speak to, and then sell that work across the country. And
Well,
some
let's
people can
keep,
do that in a
let's
month.
keep connected with, on Instagram.
Absolutely.
Because I'll follow you too. I follow
Okay,
all
so
you.
All right,
Anyway, I gotta
ladies.
run. Have a great
Bye-bye.
one.
Have
Thank
a
you,
great
everybody.
Patience. Thank you, everyone. See you next
thank
week.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Liza got